The Earth is dying because it got too big. Not hotter, not colder, bigger. And that shouldn't be a problem, right? But what happens next doesn't just break Earth, it breaks reality itself. Imagine waking up and the ground beneath you feels heavier. Not solid, heavy, like it's pulling you down harder than yesterday. You try to sit up, but your body refuses. Your chest tightens. Breathing feels wrong. Slower, harder. But here's the strange part. Nothing changed. The sky looks the same. The sun still rises. The world still spins. Except, it doesn't feel like your world anymore. Because overnight, Earth didn't just grow, it became the size of the sun. And that's where everything starts to collapse. Trees begin to fall, not from wind, but from weight. Buildings don't shake, they simply give up. Bridges snap. Roads crack open like dry skin. Entire ecosystems start failing silently. And this is where it gets weird. At first, it looks like a blessing. More land, more space, less crowding. Cities stretch out. Continents expand. The idea of owning land suddenly feels possible. But that illusion doesn't last long. Because while land expands, everything else spreads thinner. Water, soil, life itself. And that's when things change. Because bigger doesn't mean better. It means emptier. And the moment Earth became larger, it quietly started becoming unlivable. But that's not even the craziest part. Now think about water. Every ocean, every river, every drop now has more ground to cover. And it can't keep up. Oceans don't rise, they thin out. Rivers weaken. Lakes shrink into shadows of what they used to be. And this is where it gets dangerous. Shallow water heats faster. Way faster. Marine life doesn't just struggle, it suffocates. Entire species begin to disappear, not with explosions, but with silence. But here's the twist. The crisis doesn't stay in the water. It climbs onto land. Animals start moving, migrating farther than ever before, searching for something that's becoming rare, fresh water. And when resources disappear, conflict begins. Not just between animals, between humans. Because crops are next. And this is where it gets weird. You'd think more land means more food. But the opposite happens. Soil, the thin layer that feeds everything, gets stretched across a massive surface. It becomes weaker, less fertile, less capable. So even as land increases, food decreases. And that's when the real panic starts. Because now you have more space, but less survival, less water, less food, less stability. And suddenly, the world feels larger. But life feels smaller. And just when you think this is the worst it can get, something far more terrifying reveals itself. Because Earth didn't just grow in size. It grew in power. And that changes everything. Let's talk about gravity. Because this is where reality breaks. If Earth became the size of the sun and had the same mass, gravity wouldn't double. It wouldn't triple. It would become 28 times stronger. Let that sink in. You don't just feel heavier. You become trapped. And this is where it gets brutal. If you weigh 50 kilograms right now, you wouldn't feel 50 anymore. You'd feel 1,400 kilograms. Your body wouldn't adapt. It would collapse. Bones strain. Muscles fail. Even breathing becomes a battle. You wouldn't walk. You wouldn't stand. You'd lie there, pinned to your own planet. But here's the strange part. You might actually live longer. Because stronger gravity slows time. Not metaphorically. Literally. Time itself stretches. Your life extends, but your ability to live it disappears. And that's the cruel twist. You exist longer, but experience less. And that's when the nightmare deepens. Because gravity doesn't just affect you. It affects everything. Satellites? Gone. Pulled down. Airplanes? Impossible. Buildings? Crushed under their own weight. Only the lowest, strongest structures survive. Everything tall, everything fragile, disappears. And just when you think Earth is the only thing suffering, look up, because the sky is about to change. And what happens next doesn't just affect Earth. It rewrites the entire solar system. Here's the part no one expects. Earth doesn't exist alone. And when it changes, everything changes. Right now, the sun controls the solar system. Its gravity keeps planets in line, keeps orbits stable, keeps everything predictable. But now, Earth rivals the sun. Each holds nearly half the system's mass. And this is where it gets weird. Instead of orbiting the sun, Earth might start orbiting with it. A binary system. Two giants locked in gravitational combat. Pulling, twisting, distorting space itself. But what about the other planets? That's the question no one can answer easily, because their orbits would break. Some might drift away into deep space. Others might spiral inward or collide. And then there's the moon. Actually, there isn't, because it wouldn't survive this. Either it crashes into Earth or gets thrown away forever. But here's the real danger. Asteroids. With stronger gravity, Earth becomes a magnet, pulling in more space debris than ever before. Impacts increase. Destruction becomes constant. And suddenly, survival isn't about adaptation anymore. It's about luck. But even if you somehow survive the chaos in space, it wouldn't matter, because life on Earth is already over. And that's when the final realization hits. This wasn't just a bigger Earth. It was a completely different universe. But here's the twist that changes everything. None of this will ever happen. Earth will never become the size of the sun, not even close. In fact, the opposite is happening. Earth is getting smaller. Right now, every single day, hundreds of tons of atmosphere escape into space. Slowly, silently, constantly. You don't feel it. You don't see it. But it's happening. And this is where it gets unsettling. We're losing pieces of our planet all the time. Not enough to notice. Not enough to panic. But enough to matter. And yet, we breathe easily. We walk freely. We live without thinking about gravity crushing us, or oceans disappearing, or time slowing down. And that's the real perspective shift. Because everything that felt terrifying only felt that way because we changed the balance. And balance is everything. Too big, life collapses. Too small, life disappears. And somehow, right now, we exist in the only version where everything works. But that raises a question no one really asks. If changing one thing can destroy everything, then how fragile is